Perfect.
Hi, Mainak. It's so good to have you in Writersmelon. Welcome. I have been
Hi,
reading your
Priyanka. It's good to
books.
see you, and thanks for having me over.
Yes, I have been reading your books, the fiction that you used to write earlier, the crime thrillers, and now especially the non-fiction, the one that you wrote last year, the brand new start, and now this leadership in 100 words. So I'm quite enjoying your writing, and a lot of the times I'm quite impressed also and inspired by your writing and all that you have been doing. So tell us, how has been your journey writing non-fiction, fiction to non-fiction? How do you see it? As in, what comes so naturally to you? What comes more naturally to you now, and how it all began?
Sure. So I guess, one part, Priyanka, is, some things don't change, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. And for me, what I love about writing is really the ability to connect with people through stories. So even when I write non-fiction, it's more about storytelling, more about relating experiences, rather than giving frameworks and concepts and so on. So that's, I think, something that hasn't changed. I think what has changed over the last couple of years was really a bit of reflection on my part on, if I do write because I love connecting with people, what should I be connecting with them about? And, this thought process really started in the early days of the COVID lockdowns. And I just saw so many people around us were losing jobs, facing career uncertainties. So I thought, let me do my bit to help. So I put out an open offer on LinkedIn saying, if anybody needs help, let me know. So within a couple of weeks, I had more than 2 dozen young people reach out, and I started mentoring them. Helping someone with a resume, helping someone with career advice, etc. And it struck me that, look, this is a clear need out there now. There are a lot of people
Mm,
facing uncertainty, especially in a virtual or remote working environment. They don't even have the natural connectivity sometimes you have
yeah.
with people at work or with seniors. And that led me to write a brand new start. And I really enjoyed that experience. I enjoyed the interaction I had with people, through the process of writing that book and after the book came out. And that's what led me to then continue along the same genre, and my most recent book, Leadership in 100 Words.
Perfect. So here's it in my Kindle, if you can see it.
Ah, nice. Yes.
And I have used this wonderful feature that Kindle has. Although I really love paperback, but there's this wonderful feature that Kindle has, which is you can highlight and export it into PDF and send yourself. So I have I have really used that feature, and I'm going to start with the three major sections, or the three blocks of work that is there in this book: leading others, leading through change, and leading yourself. Tell us how these three are different. I mean, we will go, or tell us which one of this you think is the most difficult one, because I my guess would be leading yourself, because I think until and unless you are confident as a leader or as an individual, you can't really motivate anybody. But what
No,
about you? What do you
absolutely. No,
think?
I agree with you, Priyanka. I think the most challenging thing for anybody, whether you're a leader or not, is how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you keep yourself learning? How do you keep yourself growing? Only when you do that, honestly, can you positively impact others or deal with change. So I agree. Yeah. And the reason I picked these three were, the book actually was born in a very different way from any other book I've written. I didn't sit and say I'm going to write a book. It has started as
Hmm.
accumulation of
Yes.
me posting on LinkedIn over an extended period of time, with this hashtag leadership in 100 words. And several people started asking me, why didn't you put all of this together in a book? So then I stepped back and said, what are the big themes? And that's why I said,
Hmm.
look, these are the three broad themes. How do you grow yourself? How do you impact others? And it's always been important, but I think it's even much more important given what's happened over the last 2 years, is how do you deal with change and volatility?
Change issue.
And that's why I
Yes.
structured all the different questions and answers under these three heads.
Yes, so basically, the structure of the book, after you give out a story about this one theme, is that you have a question answer, which you try and answer
Absolutely.
within 100 words, right? So,
Absolutely.
for people who really like brevity, so there is really bliss in brevity. I don't know if I said this pronounced correct. I'm sorry, I'm reading too much nonfiction these days. So I really like this line from this part. I came to realize responsibilities that came with being a leader. So this is from leading others. You're
Mhm.
responsible for not just shaping someone else's career, but impacting their lives and that of their families in a very tangible way. Do you have any such anecdote or anything that you would like to share where you have really felt that you have brought about change in your subordinates or in your colleagues by helping them, guiding them, or somebody has done to you like that? Do you have
Yeah,
any
I'll tell you
recent
the
anecdote?
first time this actually entered my head. I must have been in my mid 20s. I was a newly promoted brand manager. It was the first time I was leading a team. I think I had three direct reports. So till then, life was simple. You're working on your
Mhm.
priorities, your projects. So I still remember, we had this presentation to some big global leader, and everybody had prepared for it. And I think they ran out of time. They said, "We're sorry, we don't have time." And I said, "Okay." I was disappointed, but I said, "It's okay." But I still remember walking out of the room, and I saw these three young people, and their shoulders were drooping, they were downcast. And then it really struck me that it's not just about the business and the numbers and the plans.
About the
How
people.
these people feel depends to a large
Yeah.
extent on how I'm leading them. And at that moment, I realized that, look, what I say now, what I do now is going to have a huge impact on these people. So I basically said, hey, let me
Mm.
buy you all a drink. Let's go down. Let's chat. And because I realized that it's on me. If I walk away then and I say, no problems, they're going to be downcast. And that was the first time I still remember it struck me that I am responsible not just for people's careers and deliverables and
Absolutely.
projects, but
Absolutely.
how they feel. And
Yeah.
along the way in my career, I mean, the best leaders I've worked with go
Mm.
beyond who you are as a employee or what your job responsibility is, but really go beyond and understand what's happening in your life, what's going through your mind, how can they help you. So I still remember when we had our first when we had our son Adi. This was He's now 13 years old, and as first time parents, it's exciting, it's terrifying. And I remember going and telling my boss at that time, a lady called Nantara, was an amazing leader. And I went and told, and she had known me ever since I had started my career. So she had known me from when I was like a 22-year-old freshie, and she'd seen me get married. Now I came and told her, yeah, no, we're going to have a baby. And what I loved was, she didn't just say, oh, great, nice. She actually gave up me so much advice on, what
Okay.
changes in your
Okay.
life,
What to expect and all.
what to expect, the mistakes she made. That was amazing because for me, that was a leader looking at you as a human being, not just
Yeah.
as a resource or a manager.
Absolutely.
And I think those are the
Absolutely.
moments when you really can make a big difference to someone's life, because you're then impacting them not just on the job, but truly taking your experiences and helping someone in their life beyond the job as well.
Absolutely. So here you write weak leaders rush to judge employees based on how, style, personality, which all of us try hard to
Absolutely.
impress our bosses. Most leaders focus on what, results, milestones, but the great leaders also insist on why, motivations, fit, capability. I think some of my hardest interviews or some of my hardest interactions have
Yeah.
always been on motivation, just trying to convince or tell that no, this is something for me and why I want to do it, why it is interesting for me. So every task I start, I think this is like really important. So tell us, what are your whys of being an author and also being a leader, being a marketing professional yourself? Do you have very
Yeah,
clear whys for these two?
see, I think for me, across all the things I do, whether it's being an executive in the corporate world, whether it's being an author, or indeed whether it's probably the most important thing I do is just try and be the best possible father and husband I can be.
Yes.
I think across all of them, I think there are a couple of things that drive me. I think one thing that drives me is, look, I would love, if even in a small way, to make a positive impact to people, and just leave things a little bit better than they were. And that's something which I think really drives me. And I think we're all conditioned by our life experiences. So and I
Yes.
lost both my parents pretty early. I lost my mother when I was 28, lost my father 9 years ago. And I still remember reflecting after that, that look, when we're no longer there, nobody remembers all the tangible things you've done. Nobody's ever going to
Yes.
remember, how much profit you delivered in a quarter. All
Yes.
that
How
matters
good
are
you
the
were to them.
exactly the memories you've left behind, the values you've transmitted, the difference you've made to others' lives. So I think that's a big thing that drives me, across anything I do. So even when I'm writing, what's driving me is if even if in a small way I'm able to provoke some thought, or even if just entertaining the thriller, make somebody
Yeah.
feel good for a little while, that's something which I hope lasts beyond, my time interacting with that reader through that book, because I've left something in their mind. And it's the same with my family. I hope I'm able to transmit values and memories to my son so he grows up to be a good young man. It's the same with businesses and brands, that I hope I'm able to make some difference to people who are working with me, which outlasts my time working with them. So I think that's one core part of it. I think the second part that's really core to my why, which I think comes back a bit to what you talked about, going beyond the superficialities, is I deeply am passionate about the fact that the world would be a much better place if we went beyond superficial differences and we actually got to understand and empathize with each other. And I
Yeah.
think I think again goes back to my own life experiences. So as a kid, we moved around a lot. My dad was in the government, went through 8 different schools, lived in many parts of India, lived in Canada for almost 5 years. And as you might imagine, when you're moving that much as a kid, some
Absolutely.
people accept you, some people don't. So I remember when we moved to Canada, I was the first kid from India in my
Yes, I was
class.
just going to tell you about the
Yeah.
Canada story that you have put.
Yeah.
So that brings me
And
right there. So
yeah,
moving through change, leading
yeah,
through change,
absolutely.
and you have this beautiful story from Canada that you write about skating, ice skating with your mother,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and how you let go the fear of embarrassment because it was
Yeah.
more fear of embarrassment than actually just fear
Exactly.
of not able
Exactly.
to skate. So
Yeah.
yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that whole experience, on the one hand, taught me that how do you embrace differences, how do you
Yeah,
embrace diversity, and the specific example you're talking about on skating. Now looking back, at that time I was too young to think of it, but now looking back, I think it was an amazing gift my mother gave me. So I was terrified of ice skating, and all my friends used to do it, and I didn't. And I remember, she just basically bought skates for herself, held my hand, and we said, come on, we'll go on the ice together. We both fell numerous times. And I realized that, ultimately, obviously, I figured it out, but it took immense courage for her to show that, look, let's fall together, let's do this together. And I think it just took away my fear of, looking foolish in front of others, getting embarrassed. And I think the big lesson as I look back now is, you can't help people change or take risks by telling them to do it. The most powerful way of doing it sometimes is joining them in
just
that
go through it
journey
yourself.
and
Yes.
go through it together. And I think that's what really builds authentic change in people.
Absolutely. I really love that story because even I tried doing skating with my son and I kind of broke my hand.
Oh,
I
goodness.
broke my
Oh,
elbow
goodness.
and then I decided never to skate. So I was actually thinking about that. Oh my God. I mean, really brave of your mother to having challenged herself on that. I mean, if an 8 year
Absolutely.
old falls, it won't hurt so much, but for a mother
Yeah.
to fall, because I've fixed it myself,
Oh,
so I can
goodness.
tell you that. So yes, so from ice skating to talking about this nice quote that you write. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I want to change. So I'm changing myself, by Rumi. He's also one of my very favorite poet, and this nuggets of wisdom that he keeps throwing at times just makes you go. So I mean, it really inspires you a lot, Rumi's quotes. So tell us, how have you? How do you see this thing? A big fish, small pond, or small fish in a big pond? Because this is a question that I always ask
Yeah.
myself, because I have worked
Yeah.
in startups, I worked in big companies, I want to do my startup. So it is a constant struggle, and it's a personal struggle. So I'm being a little selfish in asking you this.
Yeah.
How do you decide? Because most of the times the big ponds are the lucrative ones, are the ones where you get to learn,
Mhm.
are the places where you can carry the pride. Like recently, my
Yeah.
sister got into a very big MNC. She got her break there. Earlier, she was working in smaller companies. She was like proud, and everybody at our house was like, "Wow, you got this." So you
Yeah.
you have this pride attached to it, right? If you're working for a big company, and And in a startup, unless you are like making a big news about it, you are just struggling, right? Like, let's be honest. If you're working in a company which is not making much profit, even though you are like the CEO or whatever, it's very hard to tell yourself every day that no, this is something that I want to do. This is making some difference. This means something to me. You know. So how do you talk to such a person who is
Yeah.
always
See,
in this constant struggle?
the first thing I'll say, Priyanka, is there is no one right answer. All of us are different. All of us are driven by different motivations. So, I won't say here's this one formula for success. It doesn't
Yeah, but what's the
exist.
thought
The
process you
yeah, the
have? I
one
want to
thought
know what you
process I
think.
yeah, the one thought process I would leave you with is, like I write in the book, is the pond is the wrong analogy. A pond
Yes.
is a stagnant body of water.
ये वाला
No
समझाओ
matter
जरा, ये
how,
मुझे नहीं समझ आ रहा है. This I don't
because
understand. I mean, I'm not able
even
to
even
relate
if
to
the
it.
even if the pond is very big, all you're doing is you're going round and round in circles in some way. You're going to keep doing the same thing. You're going to keep seeing the same thing. I think a better analogy would be, imagine you're in a stream, because that's, I think,
Hmm.
what life and careers and growth is all about, which is
Hmm.
you're moving in a certain direction. You're not just going
Okay.
round and happy that, okay, the shores are beautiful, it's a big pond, because
Hmm.
you're probably not going to grow beyond a certain point. And I think the best way of thinking about careers in life is think of it as a stream and then ask, look, the stream I want to be on, is it heading in a direction that makes sense to me? So I think, first of all, being clear in yourself on what are you actually looking for, what's important to you. And again, there's no right or wrong. Somebody might say,
Yeah.
I want the security and assurance that comes with working in a big company. Great. Somebody might say, I'd like the learning and the empowerment that comes with a smaller company. But just being
Yes.
clear on that and self aware on that, rather than following a stream just because five other fish ahead of you are doing it, which a lot of
Yes.
people do.
Yes.
And I think the
Yes.
second thing, which I think becomes really important, independent of whether it's a big or a small or a big stream or a small stream, is who are you swimming with? Ultimately, so much of your growth,
That's
your
mostly better in a
fulfillment,
big pond, no? Who you are swimming in,
not
all the best
not
talents are in the big pond.
not necessarily, because it's less to do with, I think, the quality of talent defined technically. I think it's got to also do a lot to do with the
Motivation.
culture fit. The culture fit.
Yeah.
You could be in a really big company which is very bureaucratic and political, and that may not suit who you are. On the other
Hmm.
hand, you might be in a smaller place which really is much more in tune with what makes you tick and what's important to you. But I think just figuring out what you're looking for, what kind of people you thrive among, what kind of environment accepts you for who you are, I think those become really important. And I think the second part is not to think of it as a one time choice. The reality
Yes.
is,
You can always
like,
change, right? You can
exactly,
always.
life happens, we grow, we evolve, we make different choices. But really, just to be clear about, over time, how do you want to steer your life and career at different stages in life? Different things might become more important. At a certain stage, you might want to take bigger risks. At another stage, you might want stability. There's nothing wrong about it, but just, I think,
Yes.
taking conscious choices
Being aware of it. Yeah.
rather than just jumping to things because someone else has done it, or because there's a label and we're too quick to label
Driven by
that this is
labels.
good, this
Yes.
is bad. And I think it's just having that self-awareness, having that consciousness before you make choices.
Absolutely. I would say it was lovely talking to you. I was very selfish in asking you questions that were very, very specific to my own struggles, but reading this book really helped me to articulate a lot of it. Sometimes it is that we know what the problem is, but what happens when you read some good books and when you read authors who have been through these situations, it's just that you are able to articulate your problem to yourself, or even the solution to yourself much better. So thank you for that. Thank you for writing these wonderful books. And I wish you all the best with your future writing, leading others, leading yourself, leading through change. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a
Thanks,
nice
Priyanka. Thanks for having me
weekend.
over. Wonderful chatting with you.
Yes,
Bye.
bye bye. Take care.